This is the new VBP Plus Clearance Check Template. This template is intended to be used anytime there is going to be a shipping event for slaughter or a change in ownership or management. So, say you're just taking your cattle out to your own pasture, there's no need to fill out this document. But say that you're taking cattle to the auction mart, or maybe you're hauling them yourself to the feedlot next door that you're selling them to, those are all times that you should be using this template. So, what exactly is the difference between this new clearance check template and the old VBP Plus shipping record template? Well, really, they're intended for the same purpose, but this new document has a lot more detail out of that withdrawal check column. On the old shipping record, there was a single column that just said withdrawal check. But on this document, there are several columns that explain what exactly that withdrawal check column means. There's nothing actually changing in terms of what is expected of producers, but on this document, it makes it a whole lot clearer as to what kind of information is being asked of producers to check before a shipping event happens. It's important to note that this document should be used before you're actually going to ship cattle. Ideally, you do it before you even start sorting or start putting them on the truck because, say, you find something that isn't clear to go for shipping, you might have to change your decision. You're doing this and signing off on it before any cattle actually leave. Let's get into how to actually fill out this template. You'll notice on the top right that there are 3 fields to fill in. These are just basic identifying information pieces about your operation that you can fill out and leave on the document as many times as you fill it out during the year. First, you'll fill out the year for whatever year it currently is, your premise ID, and then either your ranch name or your name if you don't have a ranch or business name. The first step under the shipping date column is to write the date that you're planning on actually shipping the cattle. If you're doing this the day before you actually plan to ship, remember to put the date that you actually plan to have the cattle leave the farm. The next step is to fill in the animal or pen or lot ID. In this case, let's say that we're going to ship 2 cull cows to the auction mart. We'll fill in 1A and 2A, the actual tag numbers of the 2 cows that we're going to ship. Next, we'll fill in the number of head. Like we said, we're going to ship 2 cull cows. To fill in the type of cattle, we're going to pick one of the check boxes under category and sex. This time we're shipping cull cattle, and they're females because they're 2 cull cows. The next step is to fill in the destination. As we said, we're going to take these 2 cull cows to the auction mart, so we'll check off auction/sale barn. The next several columns are where we actually fill out what previously would have been the single withdrawal check column. First up is the physical hazard check. This is where we go through our broken needle records or any other records of a known animal having, say, a fragment from a metal back scratcher in it. We check mark to show that we actually did this physical hazard check, whether or not we find something. If we actually find something in the physical hazard check, this is where we would keep the animal for our own use rather than shipping it. The next 6 columns are for checking withdrawal clearances for chemical hazards. The first 2 are for animal health products. This is where we check our individual animal treatment records and our group or pen or herd treatment records for things like vaccinations or other things done in bulk. In this case, I'm going to check off that we checked both of these types of records and we didn't find anything. If we actually did find something that was still on withdrawal, we could either choose to not ship the animal or to pass on that information to the next owner, which you'll see as a column that comes up later in the record. The next 2 columns are for medicated feed and water additives or any products that you're mixing into your feed or water that have a withdrawal. In this case, we're shipping cull cows, so I'm going to say that we're a cow-calf operation, and we don't actually use any medicated feed or any kind of feed or water additives. This is a case where we would use the not applicable or NA. In this case, we don't use them at all, so there's no risk of there being any kind of withdrawal. And this is different from something where we have the potential to have an occurrence, but we just don't have any. For example, a broken needle. If we do use needles on the operation, but we haven't actually had a broken needle, that's not a case where we would put NA because we do have the potential to have occurrences. But a case where we just plain don't use the hazard at all, it's not on the operation, like this medicated feed and water case, we can just put not applicable. The next two columns are for checking safe to graze or safe to harvest times for any kind of herbicides or pesticides that are used on land used to grow feed or pasture. In this case, let's say that I've used some herbicides and pesticides, so I'm going to go back and check my herbicide and pesticide records to make sure that there were no cattle exposed to any of those at a time when they shouldn't have been. In this case, all's good, so we're going to put a check mark on rather than having to transfer the information to the next owner if there was any kind of withdrawal. The next column is to remind us to pass on any withdrawal information that we find through any of these checks to the next owner, as we've already mentioned. So we put a check mark here that might indicate either there was no information to transfer to the next owner, but we've checked that and all's good, so we can put a check mark, or we did find something and we did transfer that information to the next owner. The next column is to remind us to do a visual inspection of the cattle and make sure that they're fit for transport. So by putting a check mark here, we're saying we checked over all the cattle, everything looks good to transport, there's nothing that's lame, isn't moving, any kind of downer, nothing that's not fit for transport, everything is good to go. The second to last column is a record that we need to pass on to the new owner anytime that we're shipping for slaughter or for a change in ownership or management, and it's called a transfer of care record. We do have a VBP Plus transfer of care template on www.verifiedbeef.ca, and you can also look up more information on why this is now required under Canadian transport regulations on that document. But basically, it's just saying this is when we had the last feed and water supplied. This is all the information that we need to transfer over to the new owner, and we've transferred that document over to them. The final column is for the initials of the person that's doing all the checks. And we put an initial column here basically to confirm that the checks were actually done prior to shipping. It's kind of a confirmation that, yep, everything was done correctly and I'm signing off on it. That's all there is to the clearance check template. Be sure to check out www.verifiedbeef.ca for more resources on how to use it and how to supplement your other records that you've got to check with this document.